I wonder if we have sound. Greetings and salutations, beautiful beans. Just going to straighten up that little window. There we are. And welcome to another World Anvil podcast live. And look, I've got another beautiful, shiny, glorious guest for you, Nick from Smunchy Games. Nick, how are you doing?
I'm chilling. I'm chilling. How you doing?
I'm great. I'm very excited because it's Nick's birthday today, people. Throw in the chat, happy birthday to wish Nick a happy birthday. You can't see it now, but he will see it later. And yeah, how has your birthday been so far?
Well, I work third shift outside of this, so I went to bed, woke up. My sister called me like halfway through my nap, and I was like, "Oh crap!" I got World Anvil in like an hour. Oh god!
You'll
So
be fine, you'll be fine. I've talked to Nick before, and the reason I have Nick on today is because we are talking about RPG systems, and that is a topic I never thought I would say, because I thought, how could you possibly do an interesting talk about RPG systems? They're just systems, they're numbers. Right? And then I talked to Nick earlier in the week, no, last week, and I have never met somebody who is that interesting on the topic of systems, who is that convincing on why you should care what system you are playing, and has that much sort of analytical knowledge about why different systems work as they work and how to make your own system. And that is exactly what we're going to be talking about today. So, beautiful beans, if you would like to ask questions, throw those into the chat. Capital letter question and then your question, so that our amazing producer, Secondhand Samurai, can see those, and he will get those to me and we'll answer them at the end of this stream in about, I don't know, 45 minutes, depending on how many we see. But let me introduce Nick properly, because I have not done that yet, and he is far too modest to do it himself. Nick! This Nick here is actually Nick Butler. You can find him at Fall on My Blade on Instagram and Twitter, and he is a lead game developer at the very excellent Smunchy Games publishing house. Of course, they are Anvilites, so we give some extra love out to them. Nick's system Tiebreaker is just about to be released and will be powering the new Shadow Tantrum system game setting, which you can look forward to seeing both of next year when they are released on Kickstarter. Very, very exciting times. What are we thinking? Beginning of the year, end of the year? When can we look out for those?
my boss says quarter 4, so
Quarter
all
four.
things work out. Like quarter 4 will be the Kickstarter. So when that
Exciting.
happens, probably
Exciting.
be out a year after that ish.
Very,
But
very cool.
Tiebreaker itself is out for free in its current state, which is basically done. You know, it's fully playable. The game works great, and it's got nothing but overwhelming feedback if we're using the Steam metric. You know what I'm saying? It's like overwhelmingly positive. uh, but you know, put a lot of work into the game, and our playtesters, the ones that I have, are very adamant about making sure that I keep everything like to their expectations, which are quite high, like, so just doing my best to make sure that that happens.
Yeah, and I am so excited to see this thing. I've heard you talk about it. I think it's going to be an incredible system. And if people want to beta test it, check it out, they can go and do that right now, can't they?
Absolutely. We got links. I think Janet got the link somewhere.
Yeah.
But if she ain't got them, they're on my Twitter. It's check my pins. Holla at me in the DMs. Do whatever you got to do. Holla at Smunchy. I will get you a link. All right. Like, I just want you to play my game. My game is good. All right. Like, I'm not a very confident guy otherwise, but I do believe in the work that I've done. The people that have been supporting me have been very vocal about what it is. You know what I'm saying? They're saying the work I'm doing is good, so I'm going to believe them. You know, we're kind of Goran Lagan with it. Like, believe in the playtesters that believe in you. Only, like, I don't know if everybody got that reference, but that's Goran Lagan's great show.
So I have linked the links in the chat for Nick and for Tiebreaker and for Shadow Tantrum. And Nick, you had something extra special that you wanted to share with us today. Tell us about Tiebreaker Jackson Legacy.
Yeah. All right. So what it is my birthday every year is it's mixed feelings. Feel me? Like, my grandpa 7 years ago died on my birthday. So I figure between that and the current state of the world, particularly where I'm from in the States, um, it's very important that we try to uplift Black voices and other marginalized communities. You know what I'm saying? Our stories matter, our lives matter. And I wanted to honor my grandfather's legacy by honoring my whole family and a couple of select friends and other individuals the best way I can. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a game designer, which means that my job is to help you facilitate your stories. You know what I'm saying? So the Jackson Legacy is a collection of quirks and standout features for Tiebreaker. Like, if you haven't checked out the system yet, basically those are the passive abilities that your characters get. They define who you are. So the message pretty much is that if you're using these quirks, that means me and my family live through your characters. You know what I'm saying? So, like, you pick these particular quirks, we're protecting you. You know what I mean? Like, I like to say Team Tiebreaker officially has your back. You know what I mean? So check that out. It's free. The playtest is free right now. So you check out the Jackson Legacy document. I'm going to post that after the stream onto my own Twitter. Janet's already got the links early. So if you want to look at that, I would be more than appreciative of it. It means a lot to me. Like, I just wanted to do the best I could by my family and put them into my game. Like, I know author inserts are kind of a weird place for product design and stuff, but I felt that with this particular instance and this particular combination of scenarios that, like, I would have done a disservice to myself, my family, and my community if I didn't do something like this. You know what I mean? So, like, I'm very, very adamant about just making sure that I do the best I can for the people I care about, which my community, my family, and you all. You know what I mean? Like, part of Tiebreaker is just that I want everybody to feel like they're a badass. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to keep it PG, but like that term is very near and dear to me. Like, I want people to feel empowered when they play my games.
That's really
the
beautiful.
world is a dark place, so if I can give you a little bit of escapism so you can live out your best idealized self through my rules, then that's what I'm going to do.
That is incredible. And folks, we'll be talking more about it at the end, but if you're interested in getting some Pride Maker, not Pride Breaker, Pride Maker. Is that correct?
Pride Maker.
Good. Okay.
Like, we were going to say breaker, but then we felt like that was a negative implication.
As a component of the rainbow myself, I'm glad that it's Pride Maker. I love that. So if you are interested in some Smunchy merch, Tiebreaker merch, and Pride Maker merch, then I've just dropped the links in for that as well, and we'll be talking more about that at the end of the stream as well.
I don't think it's at Pride Maker merch. It's at the My Brood store, but
yes, I popped the link in, so yeah.
Yeah, the link is there. Click on the link. You'll see the shirts. They're cool. It's puns. It's pro LGBT. It's still got the Tiebreaker logo on it, so the connection is cool. Like I said, I want everybody to feel badass. That includes my LGBT homies. I got a lot of playtesters, a lot of family, a lot of personal friends that are in the community. You know what I mean? And they support me. So, like, this is my homage to you. Okay? Like, I want everybody to feel like they are strong. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, the struggles that we go through as people every day, like, everybody doesn't have your best interest in heart. You know what I mean? Like, I get that. So, cop a shirt, do what you got to do, get through the day. You know what I'm saying? But I just want these T-shirts to say, like, yo, Smunchy Games got you. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. You see us at a con or something, holler at us. Like, we're a safe space for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, not saying we perfect, we make mistakes at all, but, like, I want to put my best foot forward from the upset. You know what I'm saying?
That's really beautiful. That's really beautiful. And yeah, folks, you can check all of that out at the link. Smunchy Games is an amazing company, and yeah, we're really, really proud that they're Anvilites, really proud that they're part of our community as well. Okay, I think it's time to talk about RPG systems. So, here's the big question, and this is one that got Nick very fired up before, so I'm really looking forward to hearing his answer. Why does the RPG system you're using matter? Surely, I'm saying as devil's advocate, the point of RPGs is just to go to the table and play a character and have a good fun and eat some chips. Why does the system actually matter?
You did want to ask me other questions, right? Because like, if you want the full,
I know.
if you want the full answer, like, we're not gonna have time for anything else. But all right. But system matters, right? Like, we play role-playing games. The game part is what facilitates the culture of your table. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the expectations for play. It sets a standard.
Yeah.
You know, there are certain things in game mechanics that kind of subtly push your stories towards a certain direction. You know, like, you can reskin any game to do anything you want, but I feel that it's better to start with tools designed towards the outcomes that you desire to begin with. You know, so that's the short and skinny of it. So system matters because system does a lot in the background to influence what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know,
you said something so wise before, which I absolutely loved, which is system is the social contract when we sit down to play a game. We're not just playing cops and robbers. It's the thing that gives structure to our play, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. Structure is important, you know, like, otherwise, like I said, it would just be cops and robbers. Like, at that point, like, you might as well just be playing with puppets or something, you know what I'm saying? Or just live action role playing. Not LARPing, but, you know, just kind of winging it, like pure improv, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you take all the dice out of it or whatever, like, are you still playing a role playing game, or are you just role playing? You know? Yeah. Not that either is wrong. It's just that if you want to do one or the other, there are methods that you can use to make your goals easier, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say is the biggest mistake, or what are the biggest mistakes that you see in other RPG systems on the market? And again, I know this is a big old question, but can you just give us a sort of impression of where you think systems fall foul, essentially?
Janet, if you're gonna keep throwing haymakers at me, you ain't gonna survive the whole round. Well, you know, I want to try to keep things positive and avoid talking too much crap, so to speak. But I think trying to keep my answers short, because I know we got a lot to talk about. One of the biggest mistakes, I think, is, like I said, the system matters, right? And that's the G in RPG. Yeah. You know, like, a lot of game developers tend to look at that G as an afterthought. Yeah. You know, like, they're not making games, they're making frameworks for their lore. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So they are thinking less about the role that the G takes in the P, feel me? Or the P being the play. Like, so you gotta have the whole acronym for it to fit together.
Sure.
You know? But the game plays a big role in the playing.
So what you're saying is essentially systems that forget about the game side, that sort of more mechanical side, are systems that you feel don't always hold up, essentially, to scrutiny.
Exactly. You see, look at it this way. A lot of players, in my experience, from going through different internet forums and whatever, they see a lot of games from even bigger companies, you know, and they take what they want out of your lore. So if that's what you're focused on, put out setting books. You know what I'm saying? Like, that might be a divisive comment, but ultimately, if your mechanics aren't good enough to keep the crowd, to keep your audience into your game, they're going to go back to the games that they are most familiar with. So if you want to keep your audience, you have to make your game fun, not just your setting. If your setting's intriguing, fantastic, great. Make books, you know, make some comics, do some movie deals, do something. You know what I'm saying? Like obviously there's a lot of great writers in this industry, you know, but the game design aspect of it, I feel, has been lacking because people don't look at it as games. They just look at it as just the vehicle that they tell their stories to. But if the vehicle ain't comfortable to drive in, like, you might as well walk at that point.
Sure, exactly. No, they have to be fit for purpose.
Yeah.
Is there a particular kind of game system that you think is really doing well right now? Is really sort of nailing it? Apart from Tiebreaker, obviously, which we know is amazing. Guys, check out Tiebreaker.
Yeah. Honestly, there's a few standouts, I think. I call the Bakers my parents and the RPG spirit, you know what I'm saying? So Apocalypse World is great. They took a lot of care into integrating the mechanics into how they do the world building. Everything in the fiction is directly tied into how their game design works, right?
Yeah.
And that framework was really easy to replicate, which is why you have a whole powered by the apocalypse system, right? Like, a lot of other games are going, oh snap, I could do this, but do it for superheroes. And then you got Mask, right? Yeah. And Mask is awesome. Like, play Mask. If you're not gonna play my game, play Mask. You know, so like, you have stuff like that. You've got Mask. You've got you've got Apocalypse World itself. You've got like tons of other games within this umbrella, which are cool because the mechanics were done in a way where you can tell that Vincent and Meg really put a lot of thought into what they were doing. They're fantastic game designers, right? Like those two are cool. The Forged in the Dark stuff is cool too. You know, Blades in the Dark is kind of the same parentage. So, you know, like, shout out to John Harper, that's my cousin, like, so to speak, if we're taking that same family analogy. But what he was doing with that was really clever too, because of the fictional positioning stuff that he was doing, right? Where like, you can be on top of the scene, you can be on the bottom of the scene. Like, it's just kind of like how much narrative weight you have within that game system. Forged in the Dark stuff, unfortunately, I'm not as intimately familiar with as the PBTA games, but what I've read over it, like, I looked at it and I was like, wow, yo, this is brilliant, right? Grant Howitt and his like army of one-page games, like, everything he does is brilliant. Like, I'm sure that people watching this podcast probably have heard of Honey Heist, right? And like, that's just a masterclass in game design, right? But the game design doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be evocative. Like, our role as game designers is to make sure that you have something fun to do, right? Like, something like interesting choices are what matters, you know? And just that one mechanic he's got in Honey Heist, where you're got the bear or you got criminal, your two stats. And when your stuff goes right, you get more criminal. If stuff goes wrong, you get more bear. If one of those two gets too high, you either just become a jerk and backstab everybody, or you go full berserk and break everything. But like, you get interesting choices just based on that, or at least interesting consequences if you're not thinking too much of the choices, right? But like, that one mechanic is very evocative because you can see all of the implications of that in practice, right? Like, you go, oh, okay, so I'm about to rob this bank full of honey, you know what I'm saying? And then like, okay, everything is going perfect, you know, I'm getting my sneak on, criminal going up, criminal going up, criminal going up, and you drop the ball, and then suddenly the bear goes up. You're like, bear stuff, right? Um, but yeah, like Grant's amazing. Um, but like, you can't get those kind of results if you're not thinking about the impact of your game mechanics versus just the lore. You know what I'm saying? Like, they have to be married. And Tiebreaker itself, like, is setting agnostic, but there is no such thing as a completely generic system.
Yeah.
Every system has assumptions behind it. You know, Tiebreaker itself takes a lot of cues from feng shui, from Robin D. Laws, and fate. You know, so like I borrow a couple of ideas from them, where like you're playing explicitly competent heroes. You know, which gives you like some ideas of what kind of gameplay to expect when you're playing these games, right? And so all of the mechanics involved have to support this one core idea, right?
Sure.
But yeah, you know, anyway, let me stop there. Interesting choices matter. Like, do that. If your choices aren't interesting, your game is whack. Like, that's the left. Like,
that's the TLDR on that one.
Yeah, that's the TLDR. Quote me.
My poor guests on this live stream, because we have an hour, and of course the podcast is an hour over 2 episodes. It is, I ask them these very big questions and then expect them to answer very succinctly. You know, I'm terrible, but my guests are amazing and they always bring it. So thank you, Nick. Thank you for being amazing. So let's get from general questions to more specific questions. I'm sure we have a lot of people in the chat. We definitely have a lot of people in the World Anvil community who are interested in designing their own RPG systems and curious about what that system looks like. So let's start at the beginning of this process to get an understanding of what the whole thing looks like. What are the first choices you need to make when you start to make your own RPG system?
See, I'm gonna be honest, like we prepared some of these questions ahead of time, but I lost my notebook, so I'm winging it. I had a whole joke going on like that. Step 1, step 2, step 3, profit, question marks in the middle of it, and because I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do the meme on camera, and it's gonna be funny. Yeah, people are gonna be like, oh wow, Nick is clever, right? Nah, I'm done, guys.
Spoiler alert: Nick is clever.
Yeah, I'm more clever on paper than live, I'd say. But I lost my paper. All right, we'll do it live anyway. Yeah. So first things first, you just got to come up with a clever idea. You know what I'm saying? Like, just look at media that you want to emulate. If you see something cool, then you take it and you go, can I make a game out of that? Or like, and I think it's better the more vague you get, because that way you can build on it more. You know what I'm saying? Because like otherwise you might just be thinking, oh wow, I can just write a setting book out of this and then wait for somebody else to put the mechanics to it. Sure. You know what I mean? Like I said, going back to the G in RPG, like you want to make something that makes a good game, not a good setting. Because if you are a game designer first, right, or at least you should be, you know, because like I feel like it's 2 entirely different skill sets. Like, I am not a great writer. Like, if you look at my World Anvil page, it's whack. Well, I wouldn't say it's whack. I think I'm proud of the work I did in my first project. But it dulls in comparison to my mechanics. All right, we'll leave it there. So yeah, you take an idea, right, and go. I'm a big fan of fighting games. Okay. So one of the things in Tiebreaker was like, I want to see if I can take the concept of a mix-up and put it into RPG terms.
Sure.
Right. So I want that to be important in the gameplay. Okay. And then I said, how do I do that? Because those kind of mind games and fighting games don't exactly translate well to paper. So you want to take that and then go, all right, how can I get it to be close enough so you get the spirit of the idea? All right. And so we did that with having three primary abilities, right? You have an A ability, B ability, C ability.
Sure.
And then there's a whole bunch of other things that build off of that concept, right? So you can lock down ability A, so you know your opponent's only got B and C. And then you might have an interrupt ability that says if you do B, you're getting punched in the face.
Right.
So your opponent goes, okay, I'm gonna do C, right? But like a really smart player, like, because this comes down to like system mastery, which is like a thing that like D&D players love, right? Like they love being able to fiddle with stuff and go, okay, cool, look at this cool combo I did. Like we do that differently here, because we, like I said, I believe in interesting choices. And what are mix-ups other than just forcing your opponent to make dumb choices?
So can you tell us a little bit more about mix-ups?
Yeah, in fighting game terms, a mix-up is just putting your opponent into a situation where they have one or two choices, and then you kind of put them in a situation where they have to guess, right? Like the most common thing is like pretty much every single 2D fighting game from Street Fighter forward has a rock paper scissors thing, but you're adding space and time to it. Okay, so you have strikes, throws, blocks. Blocks beat strikes, strikes beat throws, throws beat blocks. Okay, and so the myths up there, like the very most basic one is like you knock your opponent down, they get up, and because they can't move now, they have to think, is he going to strike or is he going to throw? So that way their choice is block or wake up with a button. And wake up means just when you get up off the ground and you do something immediately, that's a wake up. Okay. So, but you put them in a place where it's like, is he going to throw or is he going to try to hit me? Okay. So that's a 50-50.
Sure.
And then, you know, the meta gets a little bit more complicated than that, depending on what game you're playing, and things evolve from there. You can do things like like a shimmy, where a shimmy is where you make it look like you're going to throw, but then you move back. So if they try to do a throw tech, which throw techs in Street Fighter are, you put in an input throw a throw yourself. But what happens is that if you miss it, you go, and then that's your opportunity to go, wrong choice.
For those listening on the podcast, that was a grab or a grapple and a punch. Just so we all know what we were listening to there.
Yeah, put the captions on that. Thank you, appreciate that. Yeah, so you miss the grab and then you get punched in the face because you made the wrong choice. And that's how the shimmy works. And the shimmy is just a technique to facilitate mix-ups, right? But like, how do you do that? Well, I already explained how you do that in Tiebreaker. We have ABC mechanics and then a whole bunch of other stuff that limits choices or promotes other choices and blah, blah, blah. Interesting choices, the end.
Very cool. Very cool. So you start, when you want to make an RPG system, with this sort of concept. So I want to make something like X. I want to make something as Y. You start with a vision, essentially, and an inspiration. Where does it go from there? What does the cycle look like? From I have a vision of my system to I have a system that is ready to test.
Yeah, you start with the vision, and then you determine if that vision is good enough to make a game out of it. And then when you say no, if you're me, you say, screw that, I'm going to do it anyway. And then you do it anyway. And then then you start with step 3, where step 3 is that you start making a core resolution mechanic, right? And this would be like your roll d20, add modifier versus target difficulty class, right?
Sure.
Kind of thing. So you build that. At least that's how I do it.
Sure.
And then...
Sorry, I'm interrupting you. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then from there, you make supporting mechanics, okay? So you make your choices like, do I care about initiative? Do I care about classes? Do I care about spells or anything like that? How do I express these concepts in ways that are interesting and provide my players with interesting choices? You start making those decisions early on, and then you put all of that into an outline, okay?
Cool.
And then once you've done brainstorming, you make this outline, and then you start filling out the outline. You keep making more supporting mechanics. Then you start playtesting all of it. and then you go, oh crap, I've ruined all of this, and then you go back and reiterate everything, and then you go and you play test things, and you reiterate things, and you go, cool, I want some art, and then you look at artstation.com and you go, wow, this stuff is beautiful, I can never afford it, and then you quit, and then you come back, and then you keep repeating this process until you put out a game. Or like in my case, you end up getting hired by Smunchy or somebody, and they go, "Hey, we'll pay for the art for you," and I say yes, and then you start making the game.
Amazing.
But yeah, but it starts with an idea, and then you flesh out the idea. It's very much like the like how ogre works in Shrek, right? It's the ogres are layers, games are layers.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you take that core, and then you start wrapping stuff around it. Eventually, that becomes a whole onion.
Yeah.
And the onion is your game. And then you eat it, and you have bad breath, and you make everybody at your table alienated, and then you realize, crap, now I got to find a new table and brush my teeth or something because I ate onion.
But it was delicious, and you had fun, which is why we do it. So
yeah.
You talked about figuring out if your vision or your concept is enough to make a game around. How do you do that? How do you determine that? Is something that's more of a sort of inward journey? Is there research involved? Do you talk to other people? What does that process look like?
It's a combination of everything that you just said. The first thing you got to do is believe that it's possible, right? So once you pick something, it's really comes down to convincing everybody else that your idea is dope.
Sure. So there's a certain amount of self-belief involved there.
Yeah, like RPGs are a big undertaking. Even a one-page game is a big undertaking. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a lot of emotional labor that you're putting in for the sake of other people, right? So you're putting yourself out there every time you try to do it. So you have to make sure that what you're doing is worth that emotional energy that you put into it. You know what I'm saying? So you do that, you research things. You say, hey, has this been done before? If it has, can I do it better than them? In my case, yes. And most times, I can't do math to save my life. So if there's something cool that's doing something with math, then like, no, I'm going to can that idea and do something that doesn't involve numbers. But you take that, you talk to people, you validate it, right? So like that's like a marketing concept Smunchy taught me. Market validation. You go, hey, would other people be interested in this? And then you go, all right, if there's enough, then maybe I have a little niche here. I'll corner that market and start pumping mechanics in. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, if you go on like r/RPG design and you're like, hey, I want to make an Avatar game, you would be surprised how many people want to do Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like nobody's done a good one yet because, like I said, nobody really cares about the actual game. They care about the numbers and stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, that brings me to my next question very smoothly, which is, you talked about deciding the decisive mechanics. Roll a d20, roll a dice pool, pick a card. How much do those tools affect the system? For example, as I just mentioned, there's the D20 version, there's dice pools, card systems like Through the Breach. There are all sorts of systems. How much does that change the way the game is, essentially?
I like to tell people one phrase: math is stupid. And then people look at me like, math's not dumb, math's involved in everything, math is the greatest, how dare you? And I go, no, you don't understand what I'm getting at. Math is stupid because if you're too wrapped up in the numbers, you're missing the point. You're making a system to facilitate storytelling, okay? Math helps in this, but don't get too wrapped up in the numbers. Like a D20 and 3D6 both come up to the same results if the idea is that you just want a binary yes/no decision maker, right?
Yeah.
You know, like you can argue about the curve and the number distribution changes a little bit, but the feeling is still going to be pretty much the same. So what you want to do is decide how you want to emulate certain themes, certain tone. You know what I mean? Um, and like you want to pick um you want to pick a random number generator. That is, if you decide to use a random number generator, you don't need randomness for tension. Like that is a whole different discussion. I'm not going to go into it. We only have a couple more minutes. Okay. But like taking, say, the D20, right? The D20 is great. It's simple. Everybody's familiar with it. But it's flat, right? Like you have a 5% chance of hitting any particular number. Like I'm not great at math. Somebody can quote me and tell me I'm dumb, but I already said I'm bad at math, so stop it. Okay. But like you have a 5% chance to hit a critical hit on a natural 20. You have a 5% chance to hit a natural 1, right? So that's a 10% chance of something interesting happening, in my humble opinion, right? And so you have a big number of basically yes, no, right? Maybe a little bit more if you're playing 3Ets and you have a rapier and you took all of these particular feats to drop your critical chance to 13, but it's still not a natural 20. There's nothing like that. Okay. But like you could do other things with a dice pool, right? Because you mentioned dice pools. Dice pools are great because there's more levers to mess around with, right? Like you can change the number that a particular success is on. You can change the amount of dice you roll. You can change how rerolls work. There's a lot of different things that you can do to emulate a whole lot of different concepts with a dice pool, just with how the concept of dice pools are made, right? Where with a D20, like maybe you do advantage, disadvantage, and cool, I have 2D20. But with my dice pool, I can do all kinds of stuff. But the most important thing is I can take a box of dice like this and go, hey, hold that. And then throw that at people and be like, eat this bucket of D6s and die. Right? And there's nothing like that kind of power, right? Which is why we did it in Tiebreaker, because dice pools are awesome. I am very biased. But card systems have their own unique things that you can do with them. Like you can make things happen on certain card draws, on certain suits. You can do things involving discards, involving hand size. There's a lot of things that you can do to manipulate how the cards themselves work, right? And I did something like that with a little game jam project called Desiccated, which did things with playing with matches and then having certain suits be other suits and things like that. But the card system wasn't an important part. The important part was that I wanted to make an idea where a water bottle was hit points, and that was cool. But like the core resolution mechanics, like kind of do a little bit to determine the feeling of your game and the expectations and stuff. The numbers themselves don't matter too much, but what you want to do when you're picking what kind of medium that you're using to express your success is understand how it affects player psychology.
Yeah.
You know? Because like I said, with the big bucket of dice thing, like that has a very different tactile feel than rolling a single D20. You know? Like there's a lot more front-loaded impact in wearing dice pools than having 20-sided dice and then adding a crap ton of modifiers, right? Like there's a different style to that. Like the expectation of power is different when you're saying roll 30d6 versus roll 1d20 plus 30.
Sure, it's that player experience essentially. So
yes.
what mechanic have you found in that regard that's had the biggest player experience, regardless of whether it actually worked well or not? Like, what's had the biggest player impact?
Well, I mean, you pretty much guessed my answer by how much I talked about it. I really am biased towards dice pools. I love them. Yeah. There's a lot of cool things that you can do with them. I love dice pools. My second is cards, and my third is single dice. Like I don't like single dice systems. I think they're flat, they're boring. But yeah, like there's a lot of tricks that you can do depending on what you do with your main input device, so to speak, right?
Sure.
Which is kind of like a video games analogy, where like a lot of my mechanics are inspired by video games and movies. You know, so like taking like a keyboard versus a controller, You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of stuff that you can do on a keyboard, which is why like you see like a lot of MMOs are played with a keyboard and mouse setup.
Right.
Because there's less that you can do on a controller versus keyboard and mouse.
Sure, absolutely.
But depending on what kind of game you're building, that might not matter, right? So you got to think of how that's all going to blend together with the rest of your system. Okay.
Absolutely.
But that's enough on that, though, I think.
Cool. Okay. So we've talked about a lot of different things, which is awesome. We've talked about the life cycle of an RPG system. We've talked a little bit about mechanics and a little bit about like the vehicle of decision making. I'd love to ask, rules heavy versus rules light. How much does that impact the system? How do you decide? How do you make rules heavy versus rules light? Like what are some tips and tricks if you want a very rules heavy system or if you want a very rules light system for how to approach that?
All right, so rules heavy versus rules light is a matter of taste. Okay. Sure. When we talk about the G in RPG, the game, not a lot of people. Well, I'm not going to quantify that with amounts or anything, but people are going to have different opinions, like flavor profiles, so to speak, on how much game that they want in their role playing. Sure. Right? Like, you know, some people might think that like Tiebreaker might be a little too spicy for them. There's a lot of choices in there. I think Tiebreaker is more on the rules light side because there's less levers to interact with than something like, say, like Dark Heresy, which has got numbers of days. But, you know, people like Dark Heresy for reasons. I don't. But I'm not saying that it's a bad game. I just think it's not my cup of tea. You know what I'm saying? I don't even like tea. I want apple juice.
Yeah, fair enough.
You know, my metaphors are all over the place today. But the thing is that when you're making a rules light system, it's because you were making a conscious choice to have the mechanics have less of an impact on the direction that your stories are going.
Yeah.
Right? Which is a conscious decision and not one that has any real inherent strengths or flaws to it. It's just how you're seasoning your game. Sure. You know what I'm saying? But the important thing is that you season your game. You don't season the food, it's gonna be crap. Like I'm very, very picky on how I
eat. And horrible. Yeah.
My gaming diet is very particular, okay? You know, but on rules heavy end, it's a conscious decision towards having the mechanics have more impact on your games, okay? So there's more decision points there. They might be front loaded, they might be back loaded. You know what I'm saying? Like the front load is just going to be most of the stuff done during character creation, and the others is just kind of like what's happening during the game itself. Okay.
Sure.
Where Tiebreaker is more on the latter end. Like you do character creation is just, and then all of the decisions is during the game. Like we want you to be playing.
Yeah. Playing,
right? Because it's a game that you do role playing in.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, but you know, it's just a matter of how much you want your mechanics to influence the storytelling. Okay, yeah. So that's it.
Very cool. And can you walk us quickly? You touched on this. How do you make sure that your mechanics are fit for the game in terms of spells, in terms of genre, in terms of the kind of game that you are creating? How do you make sure that there is a good vehicle for all of that stuff?
Playtest.
Yeah. Okay.
No jokes, no metaphors, no cleverness. Playtest. Keep playtesting. Like there's like you're gonna hear that everywhere. And if somebody is saying don't playtest it, they're dumb. Don't listen to them. Playtest your games, okay? Like you want to be playing your game, and if you find out that your mechanics feel whack, it's because they're whack, okay? Like playtest your games, all right? Like reiterate stuff based on the feedback that you're getting, based on your own feedback. If you feel like something's not working, change it until you feel that it does. That's really all there is to it. Like there's no shortcuts to getting your stuff to fit right other than play testing and doing your research.
Sure.
See what other people did ahead of time. You know what I'm saying? See what worked in the past. See what people tend to like, and then emulate that.
Yeah.
And then maybe do some subversions on it because you want to flip the script a little bit. Like Paranoia was cool because like everybody feels like the distribution of information is kind of something to be taken like sacred, right? You know what I'm saying? The GM gives you some stuff. The players ain't really looking at each other's sheets, but Paranoia encourages cheating. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can look at other people's sheets when they go to the bathroom and be like, yo, that dude is a mutant. Shoot him. Shoot him dead. All right? Like, but, you know, they came to that conclusion because they took something like a core concept at the time of RPGs is just like having this one stream of information, and the guys that wrote Paranoia was like, screw that, we're gonna do something silly with this, right?
Sure. Yeah, it was part of their vision, essentially. Yeah. Yeah, very cool. Okay, well, we have answered my questions, but I think it's time to answer some of your questions, audience, who has been asking excellent questions today. Folks, if you do have a question, there is still time to get that answered in capital letters question, and then your question, throw that in the chat, and yeah, we'll be answering those right now, in fact. A question,
come at me, bro.
A question here from the Caveman. Is your game friendly, that is Tiebreaker, to us players who've recently become accustomed to the unfortunate accountants, treasurers of less than frugal groups?
What?
Is your game friendly to those of us who've recently got used to being... Oh, okay. So for those of us who essentially are funding our groups right now, how expensive is your game? I think that is the question there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Caveman, like I said, if that was not your question, please let me know, because that's what I've got from that. So yeah,
I only had like 3 hours of sleep. You gotta hit me very no subtlety, please. Yeah, Tiebreaker currently is free at the moment. So, you know, if you're pinching your pennies, we ain't taking them. You know what I'm saying? We don't need your pennies right now. What we need is your feedback. All right. So come play the game, test it out. Come to the Smunchy Games Discord. Say hi. Your boy is lonely. You know what I'm saying? Like, holla at me. Tell me what you think. Like I said, I need play testers. I need play testers for days, months, until Q4 next year. Really, like.
Okay, so Caveman, your question has been answered. Yes, that was his question. Fantastic.
Fabulous.
Good. So you can pick that up for free at the link that we have been sharing periodically through this chat. Yeah, you should, because it's awesome. Ben Nicholson asks, what RPGs did you get brought up on, and what inspire you now?
All right, I started with D&D 2nd edition. Back when I was like 10, 11 years old. I just turned 36 today. Huh?
I didn't turn 36 today, but I also started with 2nd edition at the age of 10.
Yeah. We did 2nd edition, all right? So, you know, we did that, and I was like, oh my God, Thacker was the worst thing ever created. And y'all can fight me on that, I don't care. You know, went through 3X. I got really big on doing like specialty builds, min-maxing and stuff. Like I feel like min-maxing and making good characterization are not mutually exclusive things. Okay, so like don't call me a munchkin or nothing. I'm about that story. All right, I'm making a narrative RPG, for Christ's sake. All right, but you know, from there, like I decided like, hey, I didn't like where the D20 system was going. Like I wanted something a little bit more catered towards like, well, how to put it, my weeb tendencies. I'm a big fan of anime. I'm a big fan of Street Fighter and video games and stuff. I want to throw fireballs at people and like be able to hit people with swords and cut through rocks and stuff. Okay, all right. And Dungeons and Dragons was not doing that for me. So I saw Exalted, I saw Feng Shui, I saw a couple of other games. Aaron Cooney, shout out to my man Nico Aaron. Like, man, I'm never gonna get this guy's name right as much as I love him. But yeah, he made a game called Thrash back in the late 90s, okay? And that was inspired by Mechton Z, I believe, which I never actually ended up reading, but the hero system and stuff like that, okay? So that's where I kind of got the idea of having modifiers, right? You know, a la carte systems, okay? Like big eyes, small mouth, and sort of things, where like the character design isn't so much based on class, but it's based on like how you want to skin this, okay? We give you the mechanics, and you say, "Hey, I want to be Goku." You tell me what Goku looks like, all right? And that's the whole design concept behind Tiebreaker, by the way. I took those games and I said, "Yeah, that's a good idea." Like, matter of fact, that's perfect because I'm making a generic system, and I don't want to do work making classes. Yeah. Y'all make the classes, all right? I didn't too much of these mechanics. You do it. Tell me what you come up with. But yeah, you know, like feng shui, thrash, big eye, small mouth, D&D, because who hasn't? Exalted. I really love Exalted. Shout out to White Wolf. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's pretty much my pedigree, I suppose. Like, there's a whole lot of stuff in between, but like I said, like I like the bakers in them. I like my man Epidiah who made Dread. Like, me and them are friends. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like to say so. As soon as this pandemic's over, I'm coming. We gonna play some Jenga with some horror, okay?
But yeah, amazing. Cool, fantastic. Arklaw asks, when using survival mechanics, food, thirst, exhaustion, stress, etc., what would you say is just too much? And what are the best ways to make a survival system, in your opinion?
I think the whole damn thing is too much.
Okay.
Like, I will answer the question in good faith, though. Like, my thing is, I prefer heroic systems where characters aren't really keeping track of like minutia, where like food and exhaustion and all that stuff, which is cool. It makes for great stories, though. This is why I'm going to answer it. I feel like what you need to do to make a good survival game, if you're gonna work on that, is just focus on the theme, okay? Like, if you can make like an analog to something that you believe in or something, or like there's kind of like how like zombie fiction is usually sort of analogous to political turmoil. You know what I mean? I think survival stories kind of hold that same sort of weight, you know? So like, you take what's important to you and then you turn that into mechanics, okay? So like, your games are always going to be a reflection of you, all right? So you take those mechanics and then you make something cool out of it. If you want to make something where like it's a food shortage and like people are eating each other because it's a dog eat dog world, right? You know what I'm saying? All right, do that, right? If it's more about being thirsty, do something like that. If you want to do the whole thing and just make that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio where he gets like jacked up by that bear, I forget what it's called, but do that too, you know, just make it interesting. Okay, like, it's all about interesting choices. It doesn't really matter like how you get to the end conclusion. Just make sure that it's fun and that you do stuff that makes you excited and that makes your target audience excited. It ain't me, but like, you know, if you can do it and make it cool, I will retweet you. Holla at me. All right.
Yeah, it's something that Demetrius and I talk about a lot. You are not making your thing, whatever your thing is. If it's a novel, if it's a comic book, if it's an RPG system, you are not making it for everyone. Because there's no one thing that literally everyone will enjoy. Okay? You're making it for somebody who will enjoy that. And so you've got to start with what you will enjoy, because otherwise you're going to lose passion in the project. So if you feel like survival mechanics are a key part of your game, then go for them. If you feel like, do you feel like you're obliged to add them because they're in other systems, but you don't want to add them because really what you want to do is have elves flying dragons in space and you don't care about starvation mechanics, then screw them. Don't.
Yeah.
Do what gives you joy, I think, is the TLD.
Elves flying dragons is great.
Yeah.
That's basically what Shadow Tantrum is. So do that.
That's what we need. Game must
Shout
have
out to the
dinosaurs.
boss. Play Shadow Tantrum when it comes out. All right, next question.
Somebody in the chat just said, game must have dinosaurs. Check. Oh yeah. We're big
We
on
got you.
dinosaurs in the World Anvil community.
We got you. Dinosaur is gonna be in the next update. Okay,
I
like.
approve. I approve.
Actually, matter of fact, we do have mechanics for giant creatures and vehicles coming out in 1.3. So that's going to be out in a week or two. So check it out. Make your own dinosaurs, all right?
Love it. I love it. Laura Bones, who is a core member of our community, always shows up, says, not a question, but I just want to say that this dude has the Bones seal of approval. So there we are. Boom.
Hey, I love you too, okay?
Big old heart love. Songbird, fantastic question here. How do you balance mechanics that are familiar and accessible with mechanics that are unique?
Ooh, that is a good question. And that's actually one of the core challenges in making games like Tiebreaker, because Tiebreaker really is designed to try to be as accessible as possible while trying to kind of preserve my own artistic integrity, because like I said, like if your mechanics are whack, like the game whack, all right? So what you do is you take the things that you know that works and then you put your own spin on it, okay? So mechanics, especially in the United States, like it's legal to just jack whatever you want, all right? Like and matter of fact, in the indie RPG community, like we call that hacking. You know what I'm saying? Which I feel like is kind of cool. Like it's really hip hop. Where like hip hop, we did sampling and stuff. Like we take the beats and we put our own spin on it, add that little boom bap, like you know what I'm saying. Like do that, but with your mechanics. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not the first guy to add exploding dice to the system. You know?
Yeah.
But I'm not the first guy to add meta narrative resources in my hope and doom. You know, but like if you can find people that did my hope and doom system, you know, where I do my harbingers so I can get my Chekhov's gun loaded and then fire it on the players later. You know what I'm saying? If you find somebody that did something like that, tell me. You know what I'm saying? But if they did it better than me, then my next edition, I'm going to one up them. All right. So like the thing is, like, you got to have confidence in your mechanics. You got to believe that even if somebody else did it, that what you did has value. All right. And if you're not there, then work towards getting there.
Yeah.
But the thing is that you don't always need to reinvent the wheel, but you could make a better wheel. That's how we got tank treads.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. And it's very easy to get hung up on being completely unique. Writing something that nobody's ever done before. But at the end of the day, as long as it's enjoyable, as long as it serves your vision, and it's something that you think is cool, then probably somebody else will think it's cool as well.
Yeah.
So
facts.
yeah, don't panic about being unique and tie yourself in knots over it. It's a trap. Yeah.
Truth.
It's a trap that a lot of us fall into as well. Final question for today is from Hugh Pierre, and it's again a very good one. What is the best format for coming up with, and particularly for explaining the rules of your system?
Do it in your own voice. I think games are meant to be used as reference materials.
Yeah.
And technical writing is a great skill to have. I don't have it, so I did it in my own voice. You know what I'm saying? Like, you read Tiebreaker, you're talking to me. Like, it's gonna have less like, nah, I mean, like in every other sentence, but that's more of a verbal tick that I do when I'm talking live. But it's gonna be the same attitude. Like, what you see here is pretty much what you're gonna get in Tiebreaker. If you don't like me, you're not gonna like me. No, you're gonna like my game because my game's good, but you might like it less. I don't know. Let me stop digging a hole for myself. But you know what I'm saying? But write it in your own voice, okay? Don't worry too much about the specifics. As long as you make your game rules clear, if you can read them and you read them to somebody else and they say, hey, I get that, you know, then your game rules work, okay? Like, if it comes out that you get a couple of different tables and they read it and they all come to basically the same conclusion, then it works. All right. So don't worry about it too much.
Yeah.
You got this. All right.
I would also add, and this may be an unpopular opinion that everybody hates, and I don't care. Number one, make a TLDR guide so people can get started, even if it's just a little bit, because you don't want to have to. One of the scariest things is being handed a book like this and being told you need to learn this to play it. So getting people in gradually is a great way. Giving them Alternity, for example, is a great system. I really enjoy it. You can hate me, I don't care. I think it's a really fun system. But they have a quick guide so you can play your first one-shot or your first game, and then they have more details later in the book. And I personally found that very, very helpful as a player. Because the trick is not getting the game master engaged, the trick is getting the players engaged. Players just want to play things they've played already. If you could make it easier for them, they will like you more. The other thing, which not enough people are doing right now, is video. This is something that the board game community has already figured out. If you hand somebody a massive pile of rule sheets, they will not read them. If you give them a 5-minute video that basically explains the premise of the game, they will want to know more, and then they will go and look in that rulebook. So, they're not used a lot right now. It may be an unpopular opinion, but I think a beginner's guide to get people going, practically applicating the system, even in a basic way, and video are two really accessible, good ways of explaining your system in brief. That's what I'm going for.
I agree with that. I still need to do both.
I believe in you. I believe in you.
Maybe
and it doesn't have to be the first thing you do, but like...
Yeah, I'm not doing it until I get the rules like completely finalized though. So like, next update, we get the quick start guide after that.
Yeah, exactly.
But
exactly.
videos and things.
I mean, and absolutely, you shouldn't waste your time on that until the system is tuned exactly as you want it. Because making videos, as I can tell you, I have a YouTube channel, really freaking time consuming. Don't do it until it's ready. But yeah, I would recommend it. One of the things that stopped me trying Through the Breach for so long, even though it's a rules-light system, was the fact that there are literally no quick guides, no videos that explain the system in brief, nothing like that. And the only reason I started playing it is because my friend Michael, the Dead Aussie Gamer, was like, you are coming on this show, I am paying you to come on this show, and you are playing. And I was like, fine, I will read the book and learn how to do it. Because I'm busy, you know. And then now I love it, but it was a real uphill struggle.
Hey, if y'all want me on stream, y'all can pay me too. Just saying. Y'all don't even got to pay me. I just want to play some games. Honey, I'm doing a thing. I'll be with you in a second. My kids.
So sweet. Well, we are wrapping up now. I would like to remind you one more time that this was Nick Butler, one of the lead game devs at Smunchy Games, who has created the Tiebreaker system. You can learn more about that here. You can learn about Tiebreaker Jackson Legacy, which is a beautiful, beautiful sort of way to memorialize his family. Through RPGs and through quirks and traits. Is that correct?
Yeah, quirks and standout features.
Very, very, very cool.
Standout features being the more powerful, unique things that like your character gets one, they get 3 quirks. So, you know, like the older people in my family mostly have the standout features and myself. So it's like honor your elders and kind of thing. Like, also, there's a whole bunch of puns in it, so if you want to like tag me to see which ones you found, holla at me. Follow my blade. I like writing puns into my mechanics, so.
Okay. I now like you more. I thought I was at full like, but I just found another level. If you're a pun meister, then I'm there.
Yeah, shout out to Punbard at Twitter too. Like that's my guy.
Amazing. So you can find Nick at Fall on My Blade on Twitter and Instagram. You can learn about Tiebreaker, which is an awesome system, and they are looking for beta testers right now. So go and beta test, give your feedback, help form this system with your feedback, and it's just really cool. You should go check it out. There is merch available, including a Pride Maker t-shirt in all those links that I shared. And the proceeds, as far as I understand, are going to, if I can find it, here we go, Black Lives Matter, Showing Up for Racial Justice, Anti-Racism Centre, EJI.org, and Colour Lines. Very, very, very good charities. So people who deserve your money, need your money. If you like merch, if you like puns, go check them out, go support. There's one.
Also,
final
the
thing.
shirts look dope. The hats look dope. So if you want to look dope, rock one of my hats.
Boom. There we go.
And shirts.
Now, there's one final thing we need to do before we go, which is you just hit 1,000 followers on Twitter, and you need to call out the winner of a giveaway, I believe.
Oh, crap. I didn't make the table. Oh, okay. We'll do it live.
We'll do it live.
Where was the link? Did I give you the link for that one?
No.
Darn. All right, give me like 2 seconds then. Check my profile and announce the winner. We're going to roll some dice and find out.
While you are doing that, Nick, I will just tell the folks at home what's going on next week. On Sunday, guys, you should tune in for our summer camp prep stream. We will be talking about scope and scale within world building, all to make sure that you're world building exactly what you need when you need it and not getting world builder disease and keeping your project on track. And then next week we'll be going live 5 times: on Tuesday with our webinar, on Thursday for session 5 of Tequila Star Rise, on Friday we'll be doing another writing stream, and on Saturday I will be interviewing Demetris. Yes, Demetris. We're going to be talking about the world in 2 dimensions. And he's going to be sharing a little bit of what it's like to have one eye and how that affects the way that he interacts with the world, so that you guys can create eye patch wearing characters that make sense. And yeah, that should be really fun. How are you doing over there, Nick?
Almost set.
Oh, exciting.
I found the link. I got my dice roller on my phone.
Whoop, whoop,
I got
whoop.
30 likes, so we're going to roll 3d10. I guess that works. I don't know. If not, then we'll figure it out as we go. All right, so we're going to make this roll. I'm going to put my camera onto the phone. Can y'all see the dice roller?
Exciting.
All right, and the result is number 16. So I'm going to go down in order for the people that like the status. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. All right, my man, Eldritch Crow.
Hey.
At Eldritch Crow. Hit me up. You going to get some free merch. All right, buddy?
Exciting. Eldritch Crow is one of ours. He is an Anvilite, and we're very proud of him. So that is awesome to know. Congratulations, Eldritch Crow. You will be getting things coming to you. I think we are there. Nick, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your wisdom.
I wouldn't call it wisdom. It's just a lot of strong opinions and stuff that I back with facts, I guess.
Yeah, that's wisdom. That's wisdom, all right. My wisdom sensors are tingling. Well, Nick is going to come join us again. Nick is going to come join us again sometime soon. And guys, he has told me that he is available for games, interviews, podcasts, streams, the lot. So if you would like him, you can find him at Fall on My Blade, and you can let him know, and you can have your very own Nick appearance, which would be fantastic. He really is so knowledgeable about the RPG space. I cannot recommend him enough as a guest. And of course, he's lovely too, which really helps. So, also a big thank you today to Ed R. Andrew and Laura Bones, who have been throwing subs in the chat. Thank you for the bits, Basic Dragon and Roll Society. Thank you to everyone who followed us today, and for the host, Laura Bones. We are going on a raid. Our raid shout is Light Up the Forge, and we are raiding at Kaora. Yes, that Kaora, Critical Role map maker. Kaora, who made this. Kaora, who is awesome. He's always good for a great stream, so go check him out. If you are on YouTube, you can find him at twitch.tv/Kaora, and he's well worth the watch. All right, sweet beans, I'm going to sign off now. So I would like to invite you to grab your hammer, make an RPG system, and go world build. See you soon.
Wait, I got a hammer.
What's happening? Holy moly! Grab that hammer and go world